Hey there, it's Liz from No Trace. Welcome back to my channel. This year for Valentine's Day, I'm making each of my daughters a super cute little bitty gift bag with a heart on it. And I'm going to be putting a little bit of candy in there and a tiny little Valentine's card. This little bag is perfect for any time of year though, not just for Valentine's Day. And it's an awesome way to put some of your tiniest scraps of fabric to good use. So I'm going to show you how to make it. Let's jump in. This is an awesome scrap busting project. I'm going to be using some of my smallest scraps for the hearts on my bag. And then I'm using some larger scraps to make the actual bag. So to make a bag, you need one piece of fabric that is 11 inches tall and 4.5 inches wide. If you want to use a fabric that has a direction to it, so there's a top and a bottom to the print, add 1 inch to the measurement. So you're going to want to cut it to 12 inches long, and then you're going to cut it in half and sew the bottom edges to each other so that when you fold up your bag, both sides will have the fabric going in the right direction. For this bag, I'm just going to be using a non-directional print. I'm also going to be using a scrap of paper, a pencil. I'm going to be using some hemp twine. I got this at my local hardware store, and you could probably find it at your local craft store too. I'll also put a link in the description box in case you don't have access to this in your community. I'm also going to be using a large safety pin and a ruler and a handy dandy chopstick and some little scissors. The very first step is to draw some hearts or just one heart on your scrap of paper, and then you're going to want to cut it out of the paper to use as a pattern piece. Make sure you don't use your nice fabric scissors to cut out the paper. Once I have my little heart cut out, I'm going to get one of my little scraps of fabric and I'm going to place the heart on the wrong side of the fabric. And I'm going to trace the heart with a pencil on the wrong side. If you do this on the right side, the pencil might show up in your finished project. Then just cut the heart out of the fabric. All right, I've got a handful of these little hearts cut out. I cut out some little hearts and some big hearts so that I could do a little bit of layering on my bag. After my hearts are cut out, I am going to be ironing my large piece of fabric. Well, it's not that large, but the largest piece for this project. So I want to flip it so it's wrong side up, and I want to first fold it in half lengthwise and press it really well with the iron to leave a nice crease that we're going to use in an upcoming step. Once I have that center crease, I'm going to open it up. And I'm going to get my ruler and I'm going to measure down 1/4 inch at the top short edge. And I'm going to go ahead and press this over 1/4 inch, just like that. Then I'm going to fold it again 1 1/4 inch, measuring from this folded edge. I'm going to bring it down 1 1/4 inch. And then I'm going to press it again. This is going to be the casing, or part of this is going to be the casing for the drawstring that we'll do in the upcoming step. Now that I have these creases, I'm going to repeat those same steps on this side so I have the same creases on this end. Now we're ready to pin the hearts onto the fabric. So if you want to layer up your hearts, go ahead and do that. Just line them up with each other. And then we're going to pin the hearts about 1/2 inch away from that bottom edge. If you're using a larger heart, you might even want to get a little bit closer to that bottom edge and just sort of center it. You can use your ruler. So it's 1 1/4 inch, 1 1/4 inch, or you can just eyeball it. So I've got it in place. I'm going to go ahead and pin it. And then I'm going to do another heart on the other side, and this time I'm just going to do a solo, and I'm going to do this a little bit higher so it's about 1/2 to 3/4 inch up from that center crease, and I'm going to go ahead and pin it in place. At the machine, I am going to be sewing these on to the fabric using about 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, and I'm going to take my time as I get around these curves here. So having a knee bar really helps for these curves, but you basically just want to gently turn your fabric. I'm lifting my presser foot a little bit and then turning and then lifting and turning again. You have to take the pin out at some point. And for the second batch, I'm just going to be sewing around the center heart, and that'll sew the bottom heart in place too. Since this is an unlined bag, I am going to pull these threads through to the back and tie them in a knot with each other. You don't really have to do that. It's not like this bag is going to have a ton of wear and tear, but it's just a nice little step to help it last a little bit longer. All right, hearts are attached. Next step, we are going to zigzag stitch along these long raw edges on both sides. You could also use pinking shears and skip the zigzag stitch. You could also use your serger for this step. You have choices. All right, my sides are zigzagged, looking good. Next step, we're gonna follow that center crease and fold our bag up in half again, the opposite way. And now we're gonna be using our ruler again and marking 2 inches from this top raw edge and putting a pin at 2 inches on both sides of our bag. Then we're going to measure a 1/2 inch down from that pin and place a second pin on both sides. At the machine, we are going to sew the sides up with a 1/2 inch seam allowance, making sure to back stitch when we start and stop, but we're not going to sew over this 1/2 inch area where the pins are. That's going to become the casing opening for our drawstrings. So we're just going to sew until we get to the first pin, and then we'll stop, and then we'll start up again. This bag is almost done. There's just a few more steps. So we are going to be folding along those creases that we made earlier. They're kind of hard to see. I don't know how well they show up on the camera. But first we want to press open the side seams just with your finger. If you have one of those cool little roller press things, that would work too. Obviously you could use an iron. I'm just going to press it with my fingers on both sides. Once the side seams are pressed open, just take a minute and turn your bag right side out. This is where your handy dandy chopstick will come in handy. Then we want to fold along those creases that we made earlier. And hopefully they can still kind of see them. I can still kind of see them on my fabric. And I want to make sure that the side seam stays open. So I'm going to fold there and fold there. Make the side seams nice and flat. And then the whole top edge should kind of follow that fold that I made before. And now I'm going to just finger press this again. Obviously you could use the iron here, but I don't think you need to. And once that edge is folded down, then you can fold along that other crease about 1.25 inches down. And just take a moment. It's a little bit fussy because you want to make sure you don't lose that first crease. And you want to make sure your side seam stays open. So just take a minute and fiddle with it so you have a nice folded over hem on the inside. All right, I have this folded edge pinned. Everything looks pretty good on the inside. So now we're gonna start over on one side of the little bitty bag, and we want to get the presser foot on top of this bottom edge of the folded over hem that we've created. And we wanna sew about 1/8 of an inch away from that bottom edge. And just take your time. I found that if I wasn't careful, I could end up with a little pucker in my bag. So I want to take my time and I want to make sure my fabric is laying nice and flat. And once you get going, you're probably going to want to take your pins out because that's going to make it a little bit easier to sew a nice flat hem. All right, I made it all the way around. There are no puckers. It might get a little bit crooked here and there, and that's okay because these are going to be little bitty gift bags. They don't have to be perfect. But what we want to do next is sew another row of stitches about a 1/2 inch away from the top folded edge. And these 2 rows are making the casing for the drawstring. Now, obviously, if you used a matching thread, any imperfections would be much less noticeable. So you might want to use a matching thread. And I'm just going to start again over on the side and sew about a 1/2 inch away from that folded edge all the way around. The next and last step for our cute little gift bag is to thread the cord through the casing. And we're going to actually be threading 2 cords through the casing. This is about 11 inches, but you could probably use a little bit less. And so I'll be using about 20 inches total of my hemp twine. In order to get the twine through the casing, I'm just going to fold it in half near the end so I have a little bit more material to grab onto, and then I'm going to push the safety pin through 2 sides of the twine just so it's a little bit more secure. And then I'm going to thread the safety pin all the way through and bring it back out where I started. All right, I made it all the way through. I'm going to take it off the safety pin and then just tie these ends together in a simple overhand knot. I'm going to repeat that with the second piece of twine and I'll be right back. This little bag turned out so cute. I can't wait to make a whole bunch more. And let me know in the comments, who are you making a bag for and what are you going to put inside of it? I want to know. Also, if you're looking for another heart-themed project that you can sew, I am linking to another video right here that shows you how to make a heart-shaped garland, just like the one that you can see behind me. So check it out.